Hey guys, all right. So I just finished reading Aristotle Book 2. It's not the first time, admittedly, that I've read this. It's the first time I've read this translation, probably, but I've read it a bunch over. It seems like it pops up in every philosophy course, at least is touched on in some way. And first, let me apologize. There is literally an entire construction crew right outside my window right now, like redoing the pavement. So if you hear any background noise, it's either that, the kids, or the dogs. So we got a lot of variables here. But I'll summarize quickly kind of what book two is about. I'd say that like the primary tenet of it, the most important part, is this idea of the golden mean. The golden mean is, I guess, in short, if you took a virtue, courage is usually the uh, most used virtue, and Aristotle references it many times. So if you take a virtue and you take all of that virtue, like too much of that virtue, and what he calls the excess of that virtue. For courage, that would be rashness. And then you take the defect of that virtue, so the absence of that virtue, for courage, that would be cowardice. In between those two vices is courage. Um, and that's the golden mean, basically the perfect point between those two where the vices balance out and become a virtue. And that's really what he's trying to prove in book two, is the existence of this. Um, it's an interesting idea, one that I agree with. So it's hard for me to really question it because I think the argument is so strong. Um, Aristotle also says that you can't really achieve a virtuous life without practice. It's not as simple as knowing. Right? You can academically know what the virtuous uh, act would be in a given situation, but not doing it is that's not a virtuous life. Knowing it is only one part of the battle. You need to know it and then employ that knowledge without any external motivation. So nobody can tell you how to do it. There's a crazy quote in this translation that I didn't remember from previous. Man will be a grammarian then only when he has both done something grammatical and done it grammatically. Um, it's insane to read it. It's absolutely dizzying. But um, you got to know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Is basically what I think he's saying there. That's my uh, low-born Philly interpretation. And that really kind of sums up the whole thing. I mean, sorry, he does say that like, virtue is hard because men are only good in one way and bad in a ton of ways, right? I have the exact quote here. Men are good in one way, but bad in many. So acting virtuously is difficult. Um, Noting that it is so hard to act, uh, like live a virtuous life, um, he kind of gives you a shortcut. Um, so again, sticking with courage, if you the idea that you should know yourself, know thyself, I think is Socrates. So if you know yourself and how you will instinctually act in a given situation, again, particular to courage, if you know that you're more likely to be rash, you should counterbalance that by acting in cowardly, or what feels to be cowardly, because that will pull you closer to that golden mean of courage. And vice versa, if you are a coward, I think this one actually kind of fits even better. If you are cowardly, you should act in a way that you feel is very rash, so that they kind of come meet the middle, and you're boom, golden mean courage. That's really it. I mean, that is the long and short of it. He goes through kind of a bunch of these examples. He talks about courage, temperance. Uh, it's called liberality in this or in this, yeah, in this version of the piece. But I think that's generosity in others. Good temper, truthfulness, ready-witted, friendly, righteousness. Um, these are some of the virtues that he uses. And he also talks about how not every vice has a virtue attached to it. Some things are just inherently bad. So I guess Aristotle, in some way, did agree that there was a nature to some behaviors. He mentions spite, murder, adultery, theft as things that are just bad. They don't fit on his golden mean scale. Kind of a cool quote here is, "You can't commit adultery with the right woman at the right time in the right way." Um, I don't know. That's hard to disagree with. My wife certainly would agree with it. So that's basically it. As far as questions, it's hard to question the thought process. He's right, I think. I mean, it's obviously still taught today in every philosophy course I think I've ever taken. Um, so there must be some truth to it. Um, I'd like to see what other people think. I'm interested to see how other people uh, read into this particular part of his teachings. I guess that's it, guys. Excuse the mess, the noise. Have a great day. Thank you for your time.